So Peppa Pig's sweet flute-playing school teacher, Madame Gazelle, yeah, she's a vampire. That's settled. She has no reflection, never ages, dodges garlic like it's toxic waste, and casually mentions bats remind her of her old country. Textbook Dracula. But here's the weird part. She's not the scary kind. She teaches playgroup, loves music, and somehow survives on glitter, toddlers, and field trip paperwork. Let's break down the evidence and figure out exactly what kind of vampire we're dealing with, because Madame Gazelle might be the most polite, well-organized creature of the night we've ever seen. Let's start with what kicked off this entire theory. Madame Gazelle doesn't have a reflection. The first and most obvious clue comes from the Madame Gazelle Had a Castle music video, a Halloween-themed parody of Old MacDonald Had a Farm. In the video, Madame Gazelle is standing right in front of a mirror next to Peppa. Peppa's reflection is there. Madame Gazelle's? Nothing. Just empty space. Now sure, it's a Halloween video. It could be a spooky coincidence. Except, it happens again. In the episode Pumpkin Party, Susie Sheep wears a vampire costume and talks to Madame Gazelle in front of a large wall mirror. We see Susie's reflection perfectly. But Madame Gazelle, who's standing just as close to the mirror? Still nothing. The narrator also mentions not seeing a reflection of her in the mirror.
That's odd. Madame Gazelle doesn't have a reflection in the mirror.
If you know your vampire lore, this one's a classic. Vampires don't show up in mirrors because, supposedly, they don't have a soul. So either Madame Gazelle is a centuries-old vampire, or the animators accidentally deleted her from two separate mirror shots across two totally different episodes, years apart. Yeah, no, she's a vampire. Let's move on. In the episode Time Capsule, Madame Gazelle casually drops a bombshell. She taught Peppa's parents when they were kids.
Did you teach my daddy?
Yes, I taught all of your mummies and daddies. Didn't I?
Yes, Madame Gazelle.
Then, in Madame Gazelle's leaving party, we get a flashback from Daddy Pig's childhood. And who's standing at the front of the classroom? Yep, Madame Gazelle. The two versions of her, years apart, look almost identical. She shows no real signs of aging. Meanwhile, characters like Grandpa Pig have clearly aged, and Madame Gazelle seems frozen in time. So, how old is she really? Well, the answer might be hidden behind her house, buried next to a giant Christmas tree. In the episode, Madame Gazelle's house, we learn that her home is being pushed sideways by a massive Christmas tree growing next to it. She says she planted it when it was small.
After Christmas, I could not bear to throw it away, so I planted it in the garden.
Yo, cute story. Until you realize the tree is now as tall as the entire house. A tree that size? In real life, that would take 20 to 30 years to grow. Minimum. But when we flash back to when it was just a sapling, Madame Gazelle is standing there, watching it grow. And she looks exactly the same. In the same episode, Peppa and George slide headfirst into Madame Gazelle's tilted house before the family pours into the living room. And there, behind the couch, is a black and white portrait of a dignified Gazelle gentleman, who we can assume is her husband. Later, we see a flashback. Madame Gazelle is remembering the day she planted the tiny Christmas tree beside her house. And in that flashback, the exact same photo is already on the wall. Same frame, same lonely spot, same faded black and white tone. The kind of photo people take when color film didn't exist or someone's been gone a long time. Which means, even decades ago, Mr. Gazelle was already a memory. Which means she had to have met him, married him, and lost him years before that. So while time moved on, the tree grew, the house aged, the husband passed, Madame Gazelle stayed completely unchanged. Later in the same episode, Mr. Bull climbs up Madame Gazelle's tree to check for animals before cutting it down. He finds a few here and there, but near the top he spots something most people would absolutely lose their minds over. A full-on colony of bats living in the branches. Now, a normal person? They'd scream, panic, call pest control, maybe move house. Madame Gazelle? She just smiles and says,
They remind me of the old country.
You know, that one old country where bats outnumber people and vampires call it home? Yeah, Transylvania, Dracula's Airbnb. And still, no one bats an eye. Pun intended. In the episode Sun, Sea, and Snow, Peppa's family heads to the beach, only to find it completely covered in snow. Naturally, everyone's freezing. Mummy Pig, encouraged by Madame Gazelle, makes a brave attempt to go for a swim, but the second she hits the water, she bolts out, shivering like she's just licked an iceberg. However, Madame Gazelle calmly steps into the icy sea and smiles like it's the middle of summer. That kind of resistance to cold isn't normal. It's a classic trait found in vampire folklore, where the undead are said to be unaffected by extreme temperatures. Honestly, the water probably warmed up out of fear. In the guinea pigs episode, Madame Gazelle goes on vacation and asks Peppa's family to take care of her beloved pets, Ginger and Brian. She gives them a list of tasks, and one of them says the pets need to be brushed in the middle of the night.
I suppose they're easy to look after. Oh, yes. This chart shows when they need feeding and when they are to be brushed.
Why? Who brushes guinea pigs at 2 a.m.? Unless you're awake every night, because you're nocturnal, which, of course, vampires are.
Thank you, Peppa, for all your hard work looking after them.
In the Bat and Ball episode, Madame Gazelle is teaching the children how to play the game. When she takes her turn with the bat, she swings, and the ball launches into the air, slams into the roof, dents it, and bounces back down like it's been in orbit. The kids are amazed. So are we. She didn't just hit it far, she nearly took out the ceiling. For a school teacher who isn't young, that's not just a strong arm. That's something a bit less human.
You hit it a million miles!
In the Wildflower Wood episode, Madame Gazelle and Mr. Bull take the children on a nature walk to explore different plants. While exploring, the children come across a patch of wild garlic. Madame Gazelle casually says,
That is wild garlic. Some people cook with it. I don't like it much myself.
which wouldn't be suspicious if she weren't already missing a reflection and swimming in snow. But vampires and garlic? Classic enemies. Let's just say, she's not exactly seasoning her soup with it. Now let's just take a step back. Madame Gazelle ticks nearly every vampire cliché. No reflection, never ages, avoids garlic, loves bats, sleeps, probably never. But here's what's weird. She's not exactly lurking in the shadows or sneaking around in a cape. She's teaching the alphabet, hosting school concerts, collecting permission slips. Maybe that's the twist. Maybe she's not the bloodthirsty kind. Maybe she's the kind that feeds on something else. Routine, order, a perfectly organized playgroup. She's not scary. She's just tired, powerful, and probably immortal, like every great teacher. So yeah, Madame Gazelle probably is a vampire, but a totally different breed. And honestly, maybe the most powerful one of all. If you've got your theory, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And if you enjoy peeling back the weird layers of Peppa Pig's world, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos.